I swear I love things. There are things that I do love, and I like talking about them a lot. For some reason, I haven't talked about them very much. Maybe it's just because the internet thrives on negative attention and unpopular opinions, whether they're actually unpopular or not. That's what gets the clicks. And what are we all doing except chasing fame, even though it's a doomed venture that's bound to lead you to perpetual disappointment? Because we strive to find what divides us instead of what unites us, which is definitely what we need more right now. But the internet really likes to divide and be divisive because you like watching things that you hate. You like watching controversial things, which I think is bad as a whole because it's becoming such a trend. But at the same time, isn't it also good to search out things that you disagree with and things that you don't like? Because then you become a more well-rounded person and you have more information to make a decision on. Therefore, an audience with a diverse opinion, which means that we're all different and that's okay. The point is, I didn't love Soul. Didn't hate it. I just didn't love it. Before we get into it, let me tell you a story. The year is last year. My family and I watch Onward the day it comes out because it's a Pixar movie. That's what you do on Disney Plus and not in theaters because we just felt like it. There was absolutely nothing going on that made us want to stay inside. I cry. I find it amazing. I love it. I feel it's creative, heartwarming, and heart-wrenching, like some of my favorite Pixar movies. I look online to find that some audience members and lots of reviewers thought it was a little meh for Pixar. I am confused. Flash forward. The year is this year. Actually, the year is technically last year because it was Christmas Day. The point is, it was not that long ago. My family and I watched Soul the day it comes out. I like it. I enjoy many parts. And I like what it's trying to do. But I find it a little meh for a Pixar movie. I look online and find that most reviewers find it creative, heartwarming, and heart-wrenching. It made them cry. I am once again confused. Why do I feel this way? I'm not entirely sure. Let's try and talk it out. One thing I know, and I want to emphasize, is I love the human stuff in this movie. Like the band class scenes, the scene with Joe Gardner's mom, the jazz music bits, the barbershop scene. I commend this movie for the fact that it's basically the first real adult who's a main character in a Pixar movie. At least human. You know, Marlin was a fish. That doesn't count. Other than Up, I suppose. And it's also the first black guy. But the soul stuff, like the scenes in The Great Before, sort of felt like it was intruding on the human stuff thematically and visually. Felt like it wanted to be two different things. Like maybe if you cut down one or the other a little bit. Because the only thing I really liked in The Great Before scenes was the voice acting and like the interaction of the Jerrys and Terry. They were hilarious. But as a whole product, it sort of felt like three different movies to me. Because there was the human in a cat's body bit. Like literally, when that happened, I remember thinking like, okay, this is a turn. This is a choice. Feeling a little Freaky Friday Night Lives vibes, which I don't love, but maybe it'll go somewhere. But it just kind of went on for too long. The other movie, it felt like, was like an afterlife metaphysical, philosophical thing. And then the other movie was a very like down-to-earth adult human story, which was obviously my favorite. And I don't know, maybe that disjointed feeling could have been fixed if I felt like the message at the end tied it all together. I just don't think it did. It's a good moral. I think the lesson of enjoying life for life instead of focusing all your energy on one unattainable goal and then expecting your life to fix itself after that is a good one to tell. I just don't feel that like everything in the story pointed to that moral. I was so confused at the end. Like, I was really still unsure of what Joe was gonna do with his second chance at life at the end. And I have a real problem with that. I know some people like that it was open-ended and it made you think, and we could all make our own interpretation of it. I don't like open endings. I'm not saying you have to wrap up every single little tiny... Actually, yeah, I am saying that. I think you should. A story is a story. A story has a beginning, middle, and end. I'm sorry. I think things should be wrapped up in a little bow. I'm not saying that everything has to be happy. I'm not saying you have to have a happy ending if that makes sense for your moral and your characters, but I should feel satisfied at the end. I should understand what's going to happen next, even if you don't tell me everything directly. I'm sorry, that was a whole other thing. We're talking about Soul specifically, because I thought that the best ending for the movie would be that Joe, since he has now accepted that his life was meaningful, he is now willing to go into the great beyond, to die, accept death. I realize that would be kind of depressing for a kid's movie, and maybe even a little ominous for some people, like, enjoy your life or else you're gonna lose it. But I don't know, that's kind of reality, and maybe it could have been, like, uplifting, saying that the opposite is true, that death is not something to be afraid of. And obviously you were going for a very adult movie. Why not really embrace it? And if you really, really don't want to go that depressing, then write a different movie that makes sense with the ending you gave. Am I being too harsh? I swear I liked it. It was a beautiful movie. I just feel like with that really big emotional montage, seeing the time that he spent with his dad, and him realizing that playing at the club doesn't magically make his life better, that's sort of pointed to, okay, I lived my life and it actually was beautiful in all of its moments. Therefore, I can move on knowing that it had meaning. I don't need to go out and chase that arbitrary dream because I already lived my dream, you know? Again, yeah, I think it'd be a little melancholy, like, I didn't appreciate what I had when I had it, but, like, I was eventually able to. This is turning into a whole other thing. Okay, seriously. I don't know if he's going to, like, take the teaching job and stop chasing after a single, very limited goal, because the barber who originally wanted to become a veterinarian, the fact that the spark wasn't someone's purpose, but someone's desire to live, and the moment when Joe feels underwhelmed by his accomplishment of playing with Dorothea Williams suggests that that's what he's going to do. In fact, I think it really would have been great and made sense to have him learn that teaching isn't anything dishonorable or less important than playing music professionally. And it seems to work in conjunction with 22 learning that she doesn't have to pigeonhole herself into a purpose just to live. Like, that's a lesson that I thought would be touched on more in conjunction with the whole just love every moment of living thing. Especially since the dynamic between Joe and 22 is very student-teacher. But maybe they were just trying to be so subtle with it that my small brain is too small for it. And honestly, that's kind of an argument that I've never really liked, is when these sort of like intellectual, open-ended pieces of art and fiction are like, well, it's just because it was subtle. You're supposed to read whatever you want into it. Fine then, I'll just throw paint on a wall and say it's whatever you want it to be, you know? That's just not my kind of thing. I'm sorry. I think a good piece of fiction knows exactly what it's saying and is easily translatable to lots of people. Obviously, there's room for interpretation, but not this much. It was a beautiful movie, I swear. And then the other direction I didn't know if it was going to go was if Joe was going to continue to play with Dorothea and seeing music as his only identity because it's connected to his father. So the scenes with his father sort of felt like it could go that way too. Plus, there was the fact that his mother seemed perfectly supportive of his professional music dream in the end, and the fact that he didn't seem all that moved by his best student deciding to stick with the trombone. All of those things sort of suggest that he's going to do that. And again, maybe that's why some people like it, that it doesn't spoon feed everything. And it's like, it doesn't matter which one he does because he's going to enjoy life as he does it. But I actually think it's kind of important. I think endings are the whole point of a story. For me, am I crazy? What he does at the end is kind of what it's all about, right? So for me, the ending just ended up being about everything and nothing at the same time. I just don't like open endings, like 98% of the time. Because the point of telling a story is that it has a point. If it doesn't have a point, you wouldn't be ending a story there. You would end it a little bit later or a little bit earlier. You have control of the entire story. It's your story. Why not end it at a place that reinforces your moral? I don't get it. I'm sorry. I'm getting really... It's a beautiful movie. I swear. I like it. I just don't want to rewatch it that much. Jamie Foxx does a wonderful job. I like that it's about jazz. And there's some good jazz music in it. There's some good jokes in it. Anyway, my confusion doesn't completely stop at the ending, because I felt like there were a lot of points where they had to stop the story to explain things in the movie that weren't necessarily needed. Like, I still don't get how the mentors worked. Am I just stupid? Are they people who are, like, in between life and death, kind of like Joe? Like, they haven't passed in the great beyond yet? Because it sort of seemed like the great beyond was, like, no turning back from it, you know? Or are they people who have already died? Because it's kind of disconcerting how easily it was for Joe to steal a dead person's identity. I know I overthink a lot of things, but I don't feel like I overthought a lot in Inside Out. I didn't feel like Inside Out was this confusing for me. Inside Out was made by the same people, and it had a lot of the same stuff that you kind of had to get. But again, in Inside Out, it just wasn't that hard for me to do, to suspend my disbelief for certain things. While in Soul, it sort of felt like there were a lot of things that you had to get to enjoy it. And I don't really like watching movies for mental gymnastics. Like, you had to get that we were hearing Joe's body speak in 22's voice, even though all the humans in the world were hearing Joe's voice. The same with Joe inside the cat body. You had to get that Terry was a metaphorical construct of something that our feeble brains can't ever comprehend, even though he had a physical manifestation on Earth when he was looking for Joe in 22. You had to get that anyone can visit the soul world if they're in deep meditation, which can't be that easy to do, but they can also visit it indefinitely if they're just doing something that they really love and focusing. Here's how I'd summarize it. I really don't want to come off like I'm bashing this movie. It has amazing artistry in it, and a lot of people who worked really hard, and who I think should be proud. But here's how I would summarize it. I feel like Inside Out did this concept better. I feel like Coco did this plot better. And I feel like Princess and the Frog did this moral better. Like, I swear Princess and the Frog had the exact same moral. Like, the whole, my daddy didn't get what he wanted, but he had what he needed, he had love moment. Which pretty much summarizes the whole moral. So yeah, I would give it like a B-. It had amazing animation. The character design, as always with Pixar, was great. The intent behind it was great. And several of the story beats were really great. It just felt a little too disjointed and trying to do too much for me to love it. And I'm honestly disappointed that I can't. With a little streamlining, I think this could have been one of the perfect Pixar movies for me. But it's not, and that's okay. A lot of people loved it, and so you probably will too. Check it out.